All right. So I'm Kimber, and I am from Birmingham, Michigan. And I am the founder. We have some Michigan folks in here. All right. I am the founder of an organization called Kids Empowered, Girls Empowered. And I've spent over 20 years of helping kids, parents, learn to handle sticky social situations, build self-esteem, build confidence. And I've been to 2 of your conferences before. One was Jacksonville, but I cannot remember where we were. Does anybody remember me? And can tell me where I was? Because I can't remember. Do you remember, Bailey? It was after Jacksonville. I definitely was not Kansas City. Definitely. I know I would have remembered that. Denver. No. Are these all the conferences? On your back? On the back? Oh, no, not on your back. All right. We'll have to find someone. All right. So today we're going to talk about, how as women do we navigate the social world of women. And often, many women feel that we never leave high school, right? It's still high school. And that really never, ever changes, no matter how old you are. So the first thing, and feel free to ask questions, okay? The first thing is we need to recognize that each one of us has power. We all have power. Some of us use our power to build other people up, to build ourselves up, to work through problems, to stand up for others, stand up for ourselves, and to make a difference. Some of us, we don't use our power at all. We let other people walk all over us, step all over us, boss us around, say mean things to us. And then there's some people that use their power to make other people feel like they don't matter, they don't count, they're not welcome, they're not included. So I'd like you all just to think for a moment, is what are you doing with your power? Because we all have it. And are you just keeping it and not doing anything with it? Or are you using it to be the light in the room, to be that person who stands up? We all have gifts and talents. Every single one of us has gifts and talents. Now, our culture, sadly, only focuses on a small percentage of gifts and talents. People who are the pro athletes or on the sports team or fashion. And it's really sad because there's so many people walking around feeling like they don't have something to offer the world. But the truth is, every single one of us has gifts and talents. And if you haven't found them, then you want to try to find that person to help you discover what your gift is to the world. And it would be a shame for any of us not to find our gift, because the world needs all kinds of people, all kinds of gifts. So first, if you don't feel that you have a healthy self-esteem, that's the first thing we have to feel. So self-esteem is how you feel about yourself. Do you like yourself? Do you feel good about yourself? Do you feel like people listen to you? Do you feel like people respect you? Do you feel like you matter, you count? And I always ask, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a good thing to know sort of where your self-esteem is, so that if you find that you're low, then you want to work on building it. So on a scale of 1 to 10, if you were going to give a number to where your self-esteem is, 5 being in the middle, 6 being okay self-esteem, 7 being I have a pretty good self-esteem, 8 pretty strong there, 9 I'm feeling really good, and 10 I'm on top of the world. 4 not feeling so good, 3 do not like myself, 2 really do not like myself. 1, I just feel like I don't even matter. So if you guys could think for a moment in your head where your self-esteem is. And then I'm going to ask you to shut your eyes. And you have to be honest here and not peek. So we have still people coming in, so I'm going to wait till they sit down. Because I don't want anyone to look. Because I'm going to ask you if you're between a 6 and a 10, or 7 and a 10, a 5 and a 6, a 3 and a 4, and a 1 and a 3, okay? I would just like to get a sense of the room where you guys feel your self-esteem is. Because if we have a lot of people that feel like they don't have self-esteem, then I would like to spend more time talking about that piece, because that is like the foundation, right? Okay, so if I could have everyone shut their eyes, no peeking. Okay, if you could raise your hand if you feel like you're between 8 and a 10, a 6 and 7, 5 and 4, 3 and 2, 1, 0. Okay. All right. So as I mentioned, self-esteem is how we feel about ourselves. Now, what research shows is that our self-esteem fluctuates throughout our life. So one year we might have a great year, we might feel like really good, and then we have something happen, like we have a horrible boss, or we have a friend ditch us, or we move and we don't have any friends, or we have a situation that happens that makes us feel not good about ourselves. So the key is to be able to try to recognize, to get to a place where you have a healthy self-esteem, 6, 7, 8, you have a healthy self-esteem, and then when you start to find yourself slip, to try to do some extra things to build it up. So you don't wait until you're kind of feeling kind of rock bottom, because that makes it much harder. It's much harder to build that self-esteem. So things that build self-esteem are like positive self-talk is huge. So are you kind to yourself? Are you your own best friend? A lot of us are our own best critic. Some of us have an inner voice that we don't even know we got going. And that voice is telling us constantly that, we shouldn't eat that, or we shouldn't have said that, or we're not going to get it right, or we're not pretty, or we're not this, or we're not that. Most of us could spend all day long beating ourselves up. And some of us do. So if you have that negative self-talk, well, first of all, is to recognize if you have it, because you may not even know you have it. So paying attention to those thoughts. So things like when you look in the mirror, do you find something negative to think about yourself? Or do you say, oh, I like my hair today, or oh, I like what I'm wearing today, or oh, I'm feeling good today? Or not even saying anything at all, not even pointing it out. When you have like an interaction with a friend who maybe you feel left out, or they said something that was rude or mean, do you think to yourself, yeah, they're right, or I am not good enough to be in that group, or I don't belong? Or do you recognize, you know what, that person's having a bad day, and they did not handle that situation very well, or those were mean words they said? And then let's say you have a work project, or you're volunteering for something, or doing something for your house and it doesn't go right. Do you say to yourself, I'll never get it right, or I can't do anything right? If you are doing those self-defeating talk, I don't get it right, I can't do it right, nobody likes me, I'm not good enough, that is definitely a sign of low self-esteem. So you can try, when you hear yourself have a negative self-talk, you can try catch yourself and say something positive. So you're looking in the mirror and you're like, I'm not pretty, or I'm too this, I'm too that. Catch yourself and then replace it with something positive. Okay? So you're training your brain to look for the positive. And you guys, we can train our brains to do that. And then you could also just not say anything at all. So you catch yourself and you're like, I'm not saying that again. So you just like stop it. Now, you could try that for 8 weeks or so. If you find that it's not really moving the needle, then you probably should go to counseling, because we need to kind of dig deep and find out like why you feel this way, or try some other strategies. So there's nothing wrong with trying to get help. So the other thing that builds our self-esteem, there's lots of things actually, and for every single person it's different. It's finding a passion. So if you love music, art, animals, you love, learning, get 1 million degrees. I have a friend who has like 7 degrees. She loves being a student. If you love volunteering or creating, do something that you're passionate about. Passion gives our lives excitement. Gives us adventure, gives us something to look forward to. We all need that. We need things to look forward to. Setting a goal and reaching it. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to set these big goals that are unattainable. So lots of us are like, I'm going to go to the gym every day and, exercise 5 times a week. Most of us fail at that. So instead of that, saying, like me personally, I actually play soccer. And I play in 3 teams, and I have to be, Monday at 7 o'clock, I have to show up. I know myself. I have to have a time. I have to have people that I'm accountable to. The days I don't have soccer, I'm like, even here, I'm like, I'm going to go work out. No. Somehow I talk myself out of it, I have this great plan, and it just never happens. So, and when I was younger, I taught aerobics for like 15 years because I had to be there. At one point, I quit because I was like, could not do step aerobics one more time. And then, guess what? I never went to the gym. So I started teaching again because that's what I needed to help myself be accountable. So what do you need? So let's just take exercise, because let me just say, besides exercise, that all of us need to do that, no matter where we are athletic-wise. All of us should be trying to exercise at least 3 times a week. Our brains and our bodies, exercise produces endorphins, which makes us feel good. So it's important to try to get those endorphins. So that's a part of the self-esteem piece. So the more healthy you feel, the better you're going to feel good about yourself. But the thing with exercise is there's all kinds of groups. So like the church I go to, they have they walk and run for clean water for Kenya. So every Saturday, there's a walking group, there's a running group. And I did it, and it was a place to belong. Like, you met all kinds of people that were supporting you. You met these people who run marathons, like, every week, and they're the best cheerleaders for the people who can run a 5K. So finding things like that where you belong to a group to help support you is important. Okay, so that helps us with our self-esteem, feeling like we belong. And for some of us, it's very, very, very hard to find places where we feel like we belong. Maybe because we're shy, or we have anxiety, or we don't feel good about ourselves, or we live in a place that's, not conducive to these groups. But we have to try to find, because that's my next slide, is that everybody everybody needs a tribe. Everybody needs to feel like they belong. It is a human need that we have to belong. So the fact that you guys have an organization like this where you guys all come together, that is belonging, right? And it feels so good when you find people that have your interest or have your challenges, right? So like even when I do workshops with, like I do parent-child workshops, and one of the most favorite things I like is that when the parents are talking about the struggles their kids are going through, it feels so much better to know that, hey, I'm not the only one that feels this way. And even for the girls, when they hear that, you know, that there are other girls being excluded, other girls are being said these mean things, it's like, oh, I'm not the only one. And there's something powerful about that. So I love that this organization brings you guys together and tries to keep you connected. That is so awesome. And there are people around the country who could benefit from being part of this organization that don't even know, you know, about your group. So finding your tribe. So, like, let's just say you're in a place. How many of you struggle with finding your tribe? Let me get a sense of hands. Okay. All right. So, let's just say, first of all, get a piece of paper and write down everything you like to do. So you're like museums or animals or volunteering. And then just start finding organizations that do those things. So, like for instance, soccer for me. The cool thing about soccer is that the women that I play with, they come from everywhere. Like everywhere. And it's just something really cool about being with a group of people that you don't really have anything in common with, right? But you become connected through this activity. So it could be, if I had time, I would do this, volunteering at a pet shelter. You know, like sadly for me, I have 3 rescue dogs, and I made the mistake of, you know, Facebooking all these rescue groups, and now I see all these things that these people do. They're rescuing this dog and they're rescuing that dog, and I'm like, I want to do that too, but I can't. I don't have any time. But these people have bonded over their cause. Like, they're all connected. So there's, you know, you could do nursing homes. You could do cancer. I mean, there's so many things that are going on in the world that can bring people together. But you have to put yourself out there. You can't not do it, you know what I mean? Like, you can't sit home and wish you could do it. So if you struggle with making that leap, you know, some of us have anxiety. Some of us are too scared to go to these things. Then we might need to find someone to go with us the first time. I have a friend. She's my childhood best friend from childhood. And we lost touch for about 8 years. And it's when Facebook came out. I kept trying to find her and connect with her. And I finally connected with her sister. And I kept asking Kelly, you know, I want to talk to Christy. Where's Christy? And she would never respond to me. So I think finally she got tired of me bugging her, and she said, well, Christy got a divorce, and she doesn't really want to talk about it. So I kind of accepted that. I was like, okay. Well, then one day Christy did connect with me, and then every time I tried to get her to talk on the phone, she would say, you know, I'm having back surgery. My dad's having back surgery. You know, she always had some medical thing. And so finally one day she called me up and started talking to me about what had happened the last 8 years of her life. And she had become basically a recluse. She had become... she had gotten divorced. She had so many back issues that she was taking. I mean, talk about the opioid crisis. She had all these doctors giving her this medication, and she was like pretty much zoned out. And coincidentally, she was living with her parents in Florida, and I happened to be visiting my parents the next day, and I was only like 40 minutes from her. So I said, I'm coming to visit you. And the next day, of course, I saw on my cell phone, she wanted a call from her. And I knew she was going to cancel on me. I just knew it. So I was silly. I left my phone with my husband, and I said, call her in like a half hour and tell her, oh, I saw you called. Kimber left her phone here. I have no way of getting in touch with her. She's on her way to your house. And she had to let me in. And I was in tears. I could not believe this was my childhood friend who I knew so well. She was basically had bedhead from laying in bed all day long, and she was zoned out, and it was awful. And I spent the next 5 years trying to help her. And her sister said to me, Kimber, she's gone. She's not the Christy you know. And I kept saying, we can't give up on her. We can't. And, I was in tears. I flew to a couple different places to help her close down, a rental house and all this stuff. And to watch my friend, struggle in isolation. She had cut off every single person in her life. And then one day, she decided to stop taking the pain meds that she'd been given. And I asked her, I said, Christy, which you're not supposed to do, very dangerous, she did it. And fast forward, if you would meet her now, you would never, ever, ever know that this girl struggled, ever. And she has made a whole group of friends by going to exercise classes every day. She now has this whole group of friends. Now when I visit, I barely can have lunch with her because she's doing this and doing that. But I asked her, I said, Chris, what was it? What was it that made you change? Because she has a therapist that, she was calling all the time, and that wasn't working for her. And she said to me, that a couple things made her change. She said one was that when I went to San Francisco with her daughter had open heart surgery. Sadly, her daughter wouldn't even let her see her, and they're estranged. But we went to the hospital to try. And we're in the hotel having breakfast, and she's talking to people. She had isolated herself, so here she's talking to the person at the next table, and she's funny. And I said, Christy, you're funny. You make people laugh. That's your gift. People need you. And she was like, Kimber, she's like, I am funny. That, little did I know, that little conversation, would have such an impact. And the other thing that was huge for her, and she said, is, I tried to get her to go to church because I'm thinking, how do you get connected, she's been alone for 10 years. We fell off the horse a long time ago. The harder it is to get on a horse after you fall off. And so I was trying to find ways to get her connected. And she even people from the church called her to try to meet with her, and she wouldn't do it. And then I just said, okay, Chris, I said, could you just start praying? And she did. And she said for the first time she had hope. And the hope was what helped her then say, okay, I need to make a change, and I'm going to stop. So, just sometimes we have to do things, to take those risks, She took a risk by, stopping her medication because she was so fearful of being in pain, that she was kept in pain, So finding the whole point of why I was telling you guys that is the exercise classes. Is she started going to these classes, and now she has a whole community that she meets every, 3 times, 4 times a week. So there are ways that we can find those communities. And going on Facebook and exploring, like museum volunteers, or working, let's say your city has a symphony or a theater, being one of those volunteers. Like, that's how you get connected to people. But if you can't make that leap, then we have to have baby steps, Like, if that leap is too big for you, then we have to come up with a plan. Like, maybe you get a friend to do it with you first, or maybe you ask someone for a favor. But we have to take the steps. Does anyone have any questions before I go on? So feel free to ask questions. So what we're talking about today is social emotional intelligence. And the thing is that all of us can work on this our whole life. Like, I've been doing this 20 years, and I could spend my whole life, 24 hours, 7 days a week, learning about social interactions. It is, as human beings, we are so complex. And there's so many variables about our interactions, right? So we might, let's say I walk into this room, and the culture of this room is inclusive and friendly. So I might naturally be able to be included. I might walk into the next room, and the culture of the room is not friendly, not inclusive. And then I might really struggle. So sometimes it's luck, I'm lucky that I happen to grow up on a street where the neighbors come out and talk and people are friendly. So sometimes it's just pure luck. Yes?
So I went one time with a friend of mine on a birthright trip, right? And we did not luck out because the group snotty people, exclusive, I did not have such a good time. So it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm like, I would never ever go on a tour group by myself. Then I was in Israel last year, and my cousin, who I was visiting, and we worked for a tour company, sent me by myself one time, and I'm like, you know what, I kind of have no choice because they can't tend to me, and I was going to meet my mom's friend that day and spend the rest of my vacation with my mom's friend because we had plans too. So I was like, okay, you know what, it's not like you're going to be there like a whole week with them, you'll survive. So guess what, I actually liked it because the people I met were pretty nice.
That's the part you can't know. You don't know the people in the group. That changes everything. So we can never make an assumption that because I did this, I'm not going to do it again, right? One bad egg, we can't let one bad egg, ruin everything for us.
Something I've kind of personally struggled with before is when trying to sort of find groups is sometimes it's not really clear where to look for groups, especially if you kind of live in more small communities.
Right. So that's what I'm saying is take a piece of paper and write down everything you're interested in. Okay? So let's say, horses. I love theater. I would like to help people who maybe are sick. And then just start going through and seeing if those organizations have volunteer groups. And that's a great way to meet people. Is when you come together for a common cause, that's a great way to meet people because it's like people coming from all over. You don't have to be the same kind of person. You know what I mean? Yes.
Do you have any suggestions for people who might have transportation difficulties?
Yeah. So where do you? Is that you or just?
Yeah.
Where do you live?
I live in Maryland, and I don't drive, and I'm not really accessible.
Okay, so that makes it hard. And Uber and Lyft are probably maybe too expensive.
Yeah, public transit. Yeah, I don't drive either, so you have to navigate any public transit where you live.
Right.
Literally nothing.
Buses is
Yeah, I don't know if you can bum some rides from somebody for a few times, and then you might talk and try to find somebody who is around your area that you could do it with. You might reach out to, let's just say you wanted to volunteer at a hospital, and you reach out to them and you just say, this is my situation, I really would like to volunteer. Do you happen to have someone in the area that also maybe I could get a ride with? Yeah, that makes it hard. Yes?
I had a friend that had that situation, and she bartered. She didn't drive. So one day a week she cooked dinner for her friend's family, and then 3 days a week that friend drove her. So, you can think about ways to barter.
That's a great idea.
Walk someone's dog in exchange for a ride with that afternoon.
That's a great idea. I think I saw somebody's hand over here. Oh, yes.
With me, it's, I guess, finding, it's getting over that initial fear of that initial thing of I'm very shy. And that has been an issue with me my whole life. Even my dad has said it. He's like people when I was younger, and then when sometimes I would go business dinners with them, and I would literally be that kid, just behind his hovering up behind his leg.
Do you have anxiety?
I think I might have a little touch.
Where do you live?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
And is there anybody else from Charlotte here with you? No? Because again, trying to find that person, to walk through the door with. Sometimes we have to maybe, ask somebody to help us, right? We have to just ask. And people actually like to help. A lot of people like to help. So, even what I would say is reach out to me, reach out to all of this group, and could we find somebody, one of us has to know somebody possibly that's close to you, And I'd be happy to, I don't know if I do, but I'd be happy to try to find. And I love Facebook for that purpose, because there are people on Facebook that I've put out requests that, they don't know, but hey, I'll do that. I'll be happy to do that. So, we got to get creative, right? We have to think I need this in my life, and so I got to find a way to make it happen.
That's how I found my roommate for the conference.
Oh, perfect. There you go. So you already have the skill. Yes.
I agree with you with so much on Facebook, because when I got diagnosed with chronic leukemia 2 years ago, yeah, I was freaking out. But then I was like, you know what? It is what it is. I have to deal with this. Okay, where can I get information? So I went on Facebook, joined some groups. I'm from New York, so I go to local New York chapter group there too. And funny enough, one of the girls who happened to live in my area was like, yeah, let's meet. I'm like, "Grr." So me and her are actually pretty good friends.
That's perfect. Yeah. All right. So social emotional intelligence is the capacity to be aware of, control, express one's emotion, and to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathetically. Okay? And you guys, by the way, should be getting a handout with these slides. So emotional intelligence makes up 4 things. Okay? The first one is self-awareness. So being able to recognize your own emotions, your own needs, your own thoughts about yourself. Some people, they're not in touch with that. They don't even know what they want, what they like, what they feel about something. Okay, so we have to know who we are. Self-management is that you're able to control impulsive feelings, manage your behaviors, manage your emotions in healthy ways, take initiative, follow through on commitments, and adapt to changing circumstances. So like taking initiative is very hard for a lot of people, right? And especially if you have low self-esteem or you don't feel good about yourself, taking initiative is very difficult. And some of you, that might be one of your biggest struggles. And again, what we got to do is, if this is what we want, what are the baby steps to get there? Don't try to do, come here. Like, do little baby steps to get there. Because you all, it's very hard to change, like, the habits that we have in our life. So what most of us do is, we do the New Year's Day thing. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that. And it never works, right? So if we want to do something different, we need to set it up for success. What is going to make me be successful? So if it's that I need to get out more and, be more connected, so looking at, okay, let's start out with trying this group and see if that works. And then maybe you add another group, okay? But taking those little steps. Yes?
For me, like, I'm the one who actually takes the initiative, but I feel like I'm the one who does it more than the other person for me.
So you mean you might organize something and invite somebody over and you don't get the reciprocal?
Or like if I were to try to if I wanted to have a conversation, like almost like 9.5 out of 10, I'd be the one starting the conversation.
So are you feeling like that's because you're more outgoing than the other people you happen to be around, or they're not responding to you?
I don't know if they want to take the initiative to introduce themselves to me instead of me introduce myself to them.
So we have to understand that I think you all would be surprised that, and the only reason I get to know this is because I talk to a lot of parents, a lot of moms, and I was the person who organized the soccer team and the play dates and and didn't get a lot of it back, right? And I used to feel like, well, they don't want to invite us. And I think probably some of it was that. But a lot of it is, like this one mom I can think of in particular, I used to get so mad and offended. But the truth is, she's very flaky. Like, after all these years, I started to see, I saw her in some outside situations where I saw, like, she would say, oh yeah, I'll do that. And then she'd, like, not do it. Oh, I forgot. Or, oh, I had too much on my plate. Like, so then it took the kind of sting out of all the times that I got offended, because the truth is, she's just flaky. So I think a lot of people are walking around with struggling with social skills. Like, they lack social skills. Like, if I invite you over, you should invite me over. Like, they lack social skills. They also struggle with low self-esteem. So we have a lot of moms that don't want to have play dates because they're worried about the judgment of the other parent. So some of those people that you meet that you're thinking, I'm the one initiating conversation, they might be struggling with those social skills or that self-esteem, right? So don't ever be afraid to be the one, to start the conversation, right? So that's a good skill that you have if you can do that. Does that make sense? Yes?
Can you be good at one part of that and not on the other? For example, I always consider myself emotionally intelligent because I work with older people and I have this knack to be able to know what, okay, that means they need to go do this. Same thing with kids and people with disabilities. I'm like, okay, every time they do this, you know this. And I
Yeah, absolutely. There are over 100 social skills. And so your gift probably is to serve and to kind of recognize and like be able to recognize what other people need. But that's a very different relationship than when you're on one-on-one relationship, because now you're not in the position of serving, you're the other person in that relationship. So, and especially when there's emotions involved, right? So we don't always think clearly when we're in a relationship with another person versus I'm working with you, I'm helping you. That's a different relationship. So absolutely. And your gift is probably helping people with disabilities. Like that's your talent. But you probably struggle yourself with your own personal relationships. And that doesn't surprise me. I think that they're two very different.
I mean, I am probably when it comes to being patient with someone, I am probably the most, okay, you know, but when it comes to stuff like, I read like, come on, you know, that kind of thing, you know, or I have that problem of, okay, if I see things, you know, now I have to a lot of times stop myself and say, wait a minute, it doesn't matter, you know, a lot of the different.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, we are all very, very complex. And that's part of the problem, is that we have so many things that impact who we are. Like how our own family treats us impacts us. How people at work impacts us. How we treat ourselves impacts us. So we have all of these variables. And the best thing is we got to try to figure out who we are so we can try to be who we are ourselves in each of those situations. What do you want to say?
Have you heard of the Enneagram?
Yes.
And I just find that interesting about finding whatever your number is and how it relates remote to us and how we react to other people. Because when I took them, like, oh yeah, like it kind of.
Yep, so she mentioned the Enneagram, and that's like this big questionnaire that you take, and then it gives you these letters that basically say this is who you are, and this is like what causes you to react a certain way. So those kinds of tests are very helpful because, again, it explains, like, oh, that makes sense. That's why I respond the way I do. The more we know about us, the more that we can understand ourselves. Like, if you don't understand why you, like, react a certain way, that it's helpful to understand that way. Understand that. So then you can either give yourself some compassion about it or do something different. Like, I know I'm reacting to this because of the way, you know, my brother used to bully me, or my parents talked to me, or a kid at school talked to me. Like, that's why I'm so reactive to this person, right? So, yeah, the more we know about ourselves. So social awareness is understanding the emotions, needs, and concerns of other people, picking up on emotional cues, feeling comfortably socially, and recognizing the power dynamic in a group or organization. So I know that from that some of you struggle with recognizing those social cues, that body language. And so, you know, maybe you practice, like you try to really practice reading people's faces, reading people's tones of voices. You try to, like, okay, I really need to understand and try to get better at this. And so you kind of like make it like a homework assignment and become more aware. Like some of us, we might not realize, like at one point, for me personally, I like to volunteer. And unfortunately, I tend to like go too much. I go over the top. And all of a sudden, I realized that I really didn't have any close friends. And that was because I was so busy that I was not doing anything socially or having dinner or having coffee because that's not what I wanted to do. But then I realized, well, I'm missing out on that friendship piece because I'm not doing that. So now I try to take a little bit of time to do those things because I was missing out. So recognizing, like, what are the habits, like, what is my lifestyle? Is it conducive, to my goals? Because sometimes we get so caught up in life, we don't even recognize, like, we're not meeting our goals. Do you know what I mean? You guys follow me? Also, for instance, like, if you're a person that doesn't like to go to parties, then don't beat yourself up about that, right? I don't like to go to parties. People would probably assume that because I speak in front of people all the time. But the truth is, I like one-on-one conversations. I like having dinner with somebody. So why should I make myself uncomfortable and go to a party that I'm not going to enjoy and I'm going to feel like I don't want to be here? So let's not beat ourselves up. Let's find the things that work for us.
I've heard that introverts, it isn't that they don't like being around people, they just don't want to be overwhelmed. Maybe it's a milder situation with it one-on-one. I mean, being introvert doesn't mean you're antisocial.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree.
I've heard that.
Yeah. Well, also, like, some of us don't feel comfortable, like, going into a room of people that we don't know. So, like, then find ways that you can create that social connection.
More comfortable.
Yeah, so there's some, maybe you try to start a dinner group. So, like, every 2 weeks, once a month, or a book club. Book clubs are great. Like, book clubs are a great way to hang out, get to know people. Who had their hand up back here? Yes. Okay, so she's saying that when somebody asks her what the problem is, or is she okay, she struggles to explain her feelings. So I don't know if you've ever worked with a therapist, but that would be a good person to try to, come up with that language and talk about it. Or maybe you have a good friend that you could practice, like, expressing how you feel. Because if you don't even know the language, or if you're so when we have a problem, you guys, we're in fight or flight, right? So in our brain, we have the brain stem, the amygdala. And when we're in fight or flight, we're not thinking, okay? So we're having an emotional response. That is the worst time for somebody to say, what's wrong? Because you're either going to be this is what's wrong, yikes, or you're going to be like, I got to get out of here. So knowing yourself, so it doesn't take a lot, it doesn't take a lot, it takes except with my kids. For me to get mad, like angry, except with my kids, it takes a lot. So if I was in a situation where I'm angry, I know, like, I am gonna, like, it's not the best time for me to say anything because I'm gonna emotionally react. Most of us do not make good decisions when we are in fight or flight. So if you know that happens to you, then you want to say, I need to talk about it later. I need some time. And then you might want to come back to that person and try to get your thoughts when you're thinking. Like if you're emotionally reacting, you're not thinking. So then coming back to it and saying, gosh, this is what I was feeling and this is what happened. And you may need to write it down, talk it out. And you guys, we all need to talk. So if we don't have somebody to talk to and we're keeping all these feelings inside of our head, then our feelings, our problems get bigger. Do you guys know what I'm talking about when you talk about a problem and then you tell it like the fifth time and like, oh, it doesn't seem so bad? Yeah, talking helps us. But make sure you're talking to people who give you calm advice. Not the person who gets you fired up and makes you feel like, yeah, they were being mean and yeah, you should do that. You know, like I had a friend like that, and that's not the person I'm going to tell my problems to because she's going to get me all worked up. So you want to talk to somebody who's like calm and maybe looks at it from 3 or 4 ways, and there's no judgment. They're not judging you. What do you want to say real quick?
About my anger, because, I'm the kind of person, too, like, if I'm angry, like, for me, the best thing I noticed is, like, if I'm with someone and that person gets me angry, to get away from the person until I cool, just have a moment to myself, cool, and then maybe explain or say, until, before I say something or do something that I will regret later.
Yes, and let me get you in the back, and then I got to try to cover a bunch of stuff in 5 minutes. Yeah, you guys, so this is the thing. We are going to have conflict with people. That is life, okay? Conflict is normal in healthy relationships. That's normal. How we respond to conflict is the issue. So some of us respond, if we're passive, what a lot of passive people do is they take it, and then they either just, I'm not talking to you anymore, or they explode. And usually when we explode, we ruin relationships. Aggressive people are like, the minute you say something, they're going to fight, okay? Assertive, this is the skill that we actually want to have. This is the voice. This is authentic. This is being who you are. Assertive people say what they think and feel, but they are not mean about it. And they're like, it's a two-way street. Like, you have your opinion, I have my opinion. We can agree to disagree. We can argue, but while we're arguing, we don't call each other names, we don't put each other down, we don't say mean things. Most of us are dirty fighters. Like, we just don't know how to have a good fight. Arguing is healthy, Socrates, Aristotle, they all did it. They debated, right? We've lost the art in this country of being able to have a disagreement without being ugly about it. So let me talk about assertiveness for a minute, because this conference is all about finding your voice, okay? So first of all, you have to know yourself, okay? So if you're not making your own decisions, if you're letting everybody else make the decisions, then you're not going to find your voice. You have to be able to make some decisions. Some of you do not like making decisions. Some of you, it causes great stress for you. And others of you have people in your lives that try to make all the decisions. No, you need to be an equal piece in decision making. How do you build assertiveness? Assertiveness is a skill, okay? So that self-esteem piece is really important. But things like adventure, so rock climbing, canoeing, whitewater rafting, horseback riding, those things that physically challenge you, going on a hike, going camping, like doing things to put you out of your comfort zone, build assertiveness, okay? So again, you might have to take baby steps, but you got to start somewhere. Other things that build assertiveness might be like doing a theater class, taking a speech class, like Toastmasters. I took Toastmasters when I was in graduate school, right? And, they help you learn how to give good presentations. If you feel like you don't have a voice, then looking at your life and deciding where can you speak up. Maybe it is like joining a book club where you're giving your opinion. Some people, they don't give their opinion at all. They keep quiet. Again, if we don't know what we stand for, like how can we have a voice in it, right? So being able to have an argument about something can build assertiveness. Like being able to be calm and disagreeing and not get angry can build assertiveness. So assertiveness is a skill. So first of all, recognizing how do I respond in sticky situations. Am I passive? Am I passive-aggressive? Am I aggressive or am I assertive? And let's say you have a boss that you are not assertive with. So try to look at what could I do to start speaking up. Again, we want to look at baby steps. So who has any questions before we have to end? Yes. Yeah, so she said she gets frustrated because, she leaves phone messages and she doesn't hear back. So the thing is again, we don't know why some people don't respond. So it could be they have too much going on. It could be that they don't want to be around us, right? So the thing is whatever, you just have to keep moving forward. You just maybe have to keep finding other people. And then sometimes recognize that they have something going on in their life that, is too big for them. Yeah, yep. So many people have struggles. It's like most people have struggles. And that there's reasons why they're doing things that we think are rude, right? But there's a story behind it. And if we knew the story, then we would be like, oh, that's why they did that. But we feel offended, right? So sometimes we just have to make our circle big. And if you belong to something like, let's say you were doing animal rescue, you would be interacting with all these other people. So then it wouldn't be like a big deal that your friend didn't call you back because you would have other things. So you got to build your world so you're not relying on just one piece. Anybody else have a question? Yes. So she's saying that when she's assertive, she is being treated like she's being still treated as a doormat, and then you feel like then you get aggressive. Well, I would be curious, maybe afterwards you could tell me an example, because sometimes, like with myself, I was very quiet. I wanted to find my voice. So in high school, I felt like nobody listened to me. So I started teaching aerobics, and I started finding my voice. Well, then my boss described me as a bull in a china shop because I found my voice. And then I started toning it down. But it took me, I had negative experiences because I was that bull in a china shop. But I was I'm speaking up because for so long I hadn't, but I didn't recognize that now I was coming off is too aggressive. So, like, and people sometimes read you the wrong way. Like, they don't like that. Like, sometimes when people are direct, they call you, like, the B word, you know? Because women have that years and years and years that we were supposed to be nice and we were supposed to be quiet and passive. So yeah, we get negative reactions. So I would like to hear your examples, and then, you know, I could say, I don't know, but possibly maybe you are being too aggressive and you don't know it. Because sometimes when I ask women if they're assertive, aggressive, or whatever, a woman will be like, yeah, I'm assertive. And right away you can tell, like, by their body language, their tone of voice, oh no, that's aggressive. But they don't recognize it because they think if I speak up, I'm being assertive. Yes?
Well, I just want to kind of speak to what she over there was saying about, like, not getting responses from messages and friends at the time. I know for me, like, after, you know, like a work day where I'm dealing with calls from people and stuff, sometimes I just don't feel like emotionally, like, having a long chat with somebody. It's nothing, like, personal. It has nothing to do with not liking them. It's just that I just, you know, might rather just, like, go through my Facebook feed or something, but not, like, have a long chat back and forth with somebody. I'm just not, you know, in that room or mind and space. So
Yeah.
I just know, I mean, I don't know, you know, everybody that's not answering her, but I'm just saying, I know for me sometimes it's nothing personal.
Yep. That's with a lot of people. Yes.
So the problem that I have is, well, I consider myself to be pretty passive a lot of times, and, like, sometimes I just don't feel comfortable being assertive.
So you're gonna have to come up with a plan, okay? So you feel you're passive, you don't feel comfortable being assertive. So we got to figure out what is the plan to help you be that way, okay? It's not like, oh, I want to be assertive tomorrow. It's like, okay, what am I gonna do? How could I work on my self-esteem? What spots could I find to speak up? What, like, passions can I do? Where can I get myself, like, coming up with that plan? And if anybody is interested, I do coaching. I can do it by phone. I can do it FaceTime, Google Hangout, or whatever. If anybody's interested, I would love to help you guys, like, be the person you can. Bailey, what did you want to say? And then I know I got to end, so let me get Bailey and you, and then I just want to end with one closing real quick, so don't leave yet.
All right, so I'm sorry for
Uh-oh.
But so this is kind of like conversely to like trying to make friends, especially do you have like someone who's a bit more toxic and you need to like kind of stray away and cut them off.
Yeah, so
I'm sure I'm not alone in this. I'm sure like there are multiple women in this room who can relate to maybe being having a friend that like maybe is not the best for them.
yeah. So yes, when you have somebody that's toxic in your life, friends are supposed to make you feel good. They're supposed to support you. They're supposed to bring out the best in you. They want the best in you. And if you have a friend that is negative, criticizes you, puts you down, that is not a healthy relationship. Now, ideally, let's just say your friend was kind of putting you down a lot, then you would want to try to let them know, hey, wow, that sounds mean. Like, whoa, come on, friends are supposed to give compliments. Or, hey, I thought we were friends. Like, I was expecting a compliment. So trying to let your friend know, to try to give them that second, third, fourth chance. But if you've recognized this person is a toxic person, I would just, when they call, just say, I have other plans, I can't get together. If you end in a fight and say, I just can't be that way, I can't be friends with you anymore, that's not the ideal situation. But if you can, just gracefully, just try to detach yourself. It's hard if you're connected to a group. If they're part of the group, then that makes it harder. But I would just say I have other plans, I can't tonight, and just try to detach yourself that way. All right, last one, and then I need to end it. I would love to talk to you guys all day.
I guess for me, it's I have an issue with being not necessarily an issue with it. It's hard for me to kind of be that person who's like
So what I would love to do is, I don't know, I'll suggest it to Sean, but what would be ideal is if we could do like a 3-hour workshop, and then we could go through like step by step, and you guys could fill out like, you know, things. We could like get deep into like self-esteem, deep into like what's going on when I have conflict, so that you guys could each come up with your plan, because it really is a personalized thing. Like, you're going to have to figure out what gives you passion. Like, what groups can I reach out to? What baby steps I can take? Because everyone's different. Wherever you live, whatever your circumstances is, whatever your history is, whatever your personality is, all of those variables are going to come into, like, making that plan. So I'll ask Sean if any of you guys are interested, but maybe next year we could actually have like a working session where we go through like step by step, and you guys are having to answer like, this is what happens when I get into a disagreement. These are the things that cause me to get angry, because like you may be struggling with anger, and that is keeping you from being able to express yourself because you're so angry. So getting to like the source of it. Does that make sense, you guys? Okay, so repeat after me. I am strong. I am brave. I am smart. I am beautiful. Okay, so I hope that you guys all go out into the world. You all have power. You take your light. You take your gifts, because the world needs every single one of you. So thank you all.